I finally got my PID controller. It only took a little over a month to get it from China, which is about the longest anything's ever taken to come from there before. It came with a solid state relay, again came with its own heat sink, but it didn't come with screws to screw it down to the heat sink, so I'm going to have to go find screws. I'm sure they're probably metric, and I don't have any metric around here. I do have some heat sink paste someplace that I have to find. Also come with a thermocouple. It's just got a short little end on the thermocouple, but we'll stick that in the stove. But again, there's no nut on the thermocouple. I guess you're supposed to just screw that into a receptacle or something, so need to find some kind of nut or something to put on there. We'd run out of studs, using metal studs, and I wasn't quite sure how to go about building the door. I was going to try to cobble something together. Well, my wife managed to scavenge up some metal studs. This is some stuff they had extra from the remodel of the municipal building in town, and the guy really didn't want to part with any, but these were kind of beat up. These had been bent up on the ends of them, or in the middle of them, from the straps and handling and stuff. So she was able to get one little bundle of a few of them. Well, I can go ahead and straighten those out, just a little body work. So now these studs, every one of these that I've used are a little bit different. These are one of the studs that we had, and I don't know where we got these. They're left over from some job we picked up someplace, scavenged off of some construction job, and they've been around here for a while. They get a little rust on them and stuff. These I think are standard studs you get for house construction. They're 3.5 inches wide and an inch and a quarter thick, and they're pretty thin, flimsy studs. Once you get them up, put together and stuff, some bracing on them, they actually hold up pretty good. Just picking them up, they'll bend on you and stuff. But that's what part of the oven is built with. That's what the two side walls, the back wall that has the heating unit in it, and the side wall that has the heater unit in it. This is the other studs we had. See, I don't know where we got those either, but these are 2 3/4 inches by 1 1/4 inches, and they're a lot heavier studs than the other ones. They're pretty tough, and these would be pretty good for remodeling inside a house or something where you didn't want a big wide wall thickness. These are the top and the bottom, and the right side wall are made out of these. But I didn't have enough of either one of them to go ahead and finish the door. Judy come up with these, and these are heavy studs, industrial style, I guess. I was surprised. They're a full 4 inches wide, and they're a little over an 1.5 inches, almost 1 5/8 inches thick, and they're pretty heavy steel. Of course, they're punched places here, like here, for utility passages and stuff like that. I've got 2 cut for the top and the bottom, and I've got 4 cut, 2 for the sides, and then 2 for the spacers in the middle. I took the old oven that I was using. It was just a stand-up range, household range, that I've used it for several years for powder coating on, and I took the door apart on it, took the glass out of it. I was kind of surprised because I thought maybe the glass would just be one unit sitting in a double pane or double glass in one unit, but it wasn't. It was 2 panes of glass here. It's fairly thick glass, 3/16 of an inch thick, so it's pretty thick. This inside piece was pretty rough shape. I guess the powder would shake off of the parts and stuff when I'd load them in the oven, and it got on this glass, and it's cooked on there, it's coated on there. I tried to put some lacquer thinner on it, and it kind of softens up a little bit, but I got a little bit of stuff on it, but it really wasn't working very good. I've taken some methyl ethyl ketone, and I just laid paper towel on there and saturated that with it to see if I can get it to soften up, see if I can't get that window to clean up. These windows aren't very big. They're 7 inches wide, 17 inches by 7 inches. Well, I got the glass cleaned up out of that oven. The one piece was fairly clean. It had some grit and stuff on the outside of it. I wound up cleaning it off with a putty knife, The other one had all that powder coat stuff on it, and I tried cleaning that, softening that up with lacquer thinner, and that kind of got a little bit of the stuff off of it, but it wasn't doing a very good job. So I got out some MEK, aka methyl ethyl ketone, and tried that, and that softened it up a little bit more, but still wasn't really getting that much of it. It softened it up and I could get some of the stuff off, but wasn't cleaning it up real good. I spread out some paper towels on there, soaked it with MEK and let it sit for a little while I went and got the putty knife. And then once I got the putty knife, I was able to, the MEK softened up enough that I was able to scrape it and get it off, the crusty stuff. And then once I got it off, then I was able to, well, again, I laid out paper towels on there and soaked it with MEK, and then laid the other piece of glass on top of the one that had all the powder coat on it. Well, I went to dinner and took the dogs for their evening walk, or maybe I didn't walk them quite as much as I needed to. But anyway, I come back and stuff pretty much wiped off of there. They got it pretty good now. I'll try to incorporate those into this door and see what we can do about that. I just made the frame that'll go in the middle of the door where the windows will go. The windows will go right in there. I need to get some angle to put inside there to rest the windows against. This one will go in, rest it against in there, and then I'll get the other one in there with a little space between them for some insulation. I thought it was pretty cool. I just used my spot welder to put this frame together instead of drilling it and riveting it like I did all of the rest of the frames on there. A little bit of a challenge down here. This one has the cutouts in it for the utilities, so there's not as much area to spot weld on. These ones up here don't have anything. They're nice flat flange, so that went together real quick. That was a lot faster than drilling and riveting. And I need something to support that glass in the cavity that I made for it. I've got angle aluminum, and that won't work. I guess I could pop rivet that in or screw it into those panels. I was kind of focused on using the spot welder. I've got stainless steel, and that really wouldn't work either. I had some of this flashing for siding and work on the house. I've got a roll of it someplace. I found a roll of aluminum. That wouldn't work, but the galvanized flashing I couldn't find, so I had to run to town and grabbed a 10-foot roll of it, and then that was kind of a chore, because this is a little Norway celebration there, celebrate the Norwegian Independence Day here, and it's a big doings like the 4th of July. So anyway, I went to town and I got a piece of flashing here. Well, I cut it 17 inches long, and then I cut 1.25 inches off of it, and I bent it into a little L flange, L bracket, which I'll go ahead and put in there. I'll put one on each side, and I think I'll go ahead and put them on the top and the bottom too. But I'll cut these and put them in there to support that inside glass. Then I'll have to do something to support the outside glass, or to separate the two of them. Maybe make a U-channel or something in there to separate the two of them. We'll get it figured out anyway. We got one window in, and I took a wooden block here for a spacer, put down on the table, and put the flange on it. Took my spot welder, welded that flange in, and so I put 4 flanges, 2 17.25 inch ones here on the sides, and 2 6 2/10 on the ends, top and the bottom. I've got those flush, and then I've got this silicone baffling material that I've had for years. I got it for baffling on an airplane engine, and it was not the stuff that I wanted, but it's a real high temp silicone. I cut it into strips, laid it in there, and then I filled in the gaps and stuff and kind of glued it down a little bit with some high temp RTV. And then I cut 4 more little strips and put on top of the glass. Made a couple more of these angle brackets, put in there on top. Just spot welded those in there. It's kind of a pain in the butt getting the spot welder up. You have to get it up down over this channel and kind of hold it up in the air to make the spot welds. But it's working pretty good. It's turning out pretty nice, actually. There's Here's what it looks like. This will be the face of it, the side that's on towards the inside of the stove. So it's inset about an inch from the face here. Be a little farther than that when I get the sheeting on. Make some more of those little brackets, and probably just go ahead and use this 1x board for the spacer in there to put the brackets in and space those two windows about an inch apart. At least that's kind of the idea for now. That's subject to change. But the bracket's got to be wider on one leg, because this channel is 3/8 of an inch or more wider than the glass. So when I tried to do the small leg on there, the glass just fell through. So I made a wide leg on there, and then a narrow leg, and the narrow leg is what's spot welded to the frame here. I got the sheet metal I cut to 17 and 1/8 inch long, and what I do with this, I got this piece of angle aluminum, and I got some of these Cleco panel brackets. I just take that angle aluminum and put it against one edge. It doesn't really have to be too close, because that edge is going to get sheared off anyway. But I put it against that edge like that, and put one down here on this end. Get those edges flush. Like I said, it doesn't make too much difference because they get sheared off anyway. And then this can butt up against the brake, because you can't really see where the line is, where you're making your bend on it. When you put it in the brake, once it goes in there, you can't really see the line where the bend's going to be. That goes in as a stop. Just make the bend, and then I use these two Clecos, and I've got two pieces of sheet metal here. I think they're 16. And I'll just put those in there against those two Cleco panel Clecos. Push that up against the blade for the shear, and cut that off. That gives me a nice straight edge, a uniform size for my short leg. And this is the leg that gets spot welded on. Now this leg here is a little longer than what I want. I've got this piece of aluminum that I got the other day, and I'll just put it in there for a spacer and trim that off. Now I'm wasting a little bit of money, material doing that, but winds up with nice straight bend and nice straight edges. There's a couple of these utility cutouts right here where the bottom of this window went. This lower cross piece kind of bridged that, left a little bit of a gap in there. It was all behind this outer window, but it would have been between the two windows, and there would have been a cavity coming out that could have come out into this area or transferred down to the lower section. The heat could have gone through there. This is all going to be filled with insulation, so it might not have made any difference or anything, but just to be sure, I cut a little patch out of some of the leftover material that I had from making these angle brackets, and I just put it in there over those holes and spot welded it in. Now I'll go ahead and put these pieces in here, and that piece fitting on there just wants to rock, so I'm going to put little shims underneath it to hold it up, and that's some of that silicone, and then I'll just, yeah, that should do it. Now I can put this tab in there. Now this is the hard part. This spot welder is not really light, and you got to watch out here to make sure that the electrodes on there don't contact except right where you want them. So that one is done. So that flange is in there. Cut some more strips of that silicone, lay down I'm going to wash the inside of that window real good before I lay that other window in there. I get the window in, and I get a little bit of high temp RTV filling in the gaps there in the metal and also in the silicone gasket material that I put in there. Put a little bit on this metal tabs just to kind of glue that silicone gasket material down so it'd stay put on the bottom sides here anyway. And I put a little bit of RTV in these corners here. The glass is not glued down with RTV. I put a little cushion in between the glass and the side panels there on this one so they doesn't rock too much. You don't want to glue it in because it heats. I don't know how bad glass does, but it heats and expands. If you glue it in tight, then something's going to give and it'll probably crack. Now here's the other one. This one's in just a little bit farther. So it doesn't make any difference which one's which as far as inside and outside. They're both identical. This one on this side, the flange doesn't show on it. This one here, the flange shows on it. So anyway, there's about an inch air gap between the two of them. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that turned out real good. Using the spot welder was really nice on that. A lot easier than drilling all these holes and putting pop rivets in them. And I was able to push down a little bit on these flanges with the electrodes on the spot welder to make sure they got them good and tight. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that would be nice. It's not as big a window as a person might want for that big of a door, but it's better than no window at all. Okay, there's the door framed in. It's pretty square. You get the window in it. Looks pretty good for what it is. I'll have to get it skinned on one side tomorrow and figure out how to hang it. I still have to figure out how to put a hinge on there.